Good evening. I am Linda Bartmus, and I am a director for the League of Women Voters of Lake County. I am happy to welcome you to the candidate forum tonight covering the races for Lake County Circuit Court Clerk and Lake County State's Attorney. Tonight's program is being held on Zoom and is being recorded. The forum will be posted in its entirety on League social media platforms, on Mano a Mano social media, and the Illinois Voter Guide. The League claims copyright ownership of any recording or transcript produced of the forum. Any other use of the forum recording requires the express written permission of the League. The League of Women Voters is a 104-year-old organization that is proudly nonpartisan. We encourage informed and active participation in government, work to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influence public policy through education and advocacy. We stand firm in our commitment to empower voters and defend democracy. Our commitment to these principles is honored through the sponsorship of programs such as this forum, the creation of the Illinois Voters Guide, which is a nonpartisan compilation of candidates in all Illinois races, and in our support for voter registration and education programs throughout the year. Today's forum is sponsored by the Leagues of Women Voters of Lake County, the Deerfield, Lincolnshire, Grays Lake, Round Lake, and Waukegan, Highland Park, Highwood, and Lake Forest, Lake Bluff area leagues, as well as Mano a Mano Family Resource Center. So let me introduce you again to Claire Dietz with Mano a Mano.
Hi again, everyone. My name is Claire, and I am the Democracy in Action organizer with Mano a Mano. Mano a Mano is a family resource center located in Round Lake and North Chicago, but we service all of Lake County and parts of McHenry County. We have 5 different programs, including Engaged Citizens, Healthy Families, Productive Parents, Successful Children, and the program I am a part of, Democracy in Action. If you want to know more about us, you can check us out at manoamano.familyresourcecenter.org. Thank you so much for being here.
And now I would like to introduce our moderator for this evening, Paula Lawson. She is a member of the League of Women Voters of Glenview-Glencoe, who resides in Glencoe, Illinois. She is a past president of the League of Women Voters of Illinois and the League of Glencoe. Paula has served on the League of Women Voters of Illinois Issues Committee as an issue specialist in the area of redistricting. She has moderated forums for U.S. congressional districts, local village, and community boards. It was her interest in public policy and educating the public about government that led to her volunteer work for the League. She will be reviewing the rules and protocols for the evening and will be asking the candidates the questions. With that, please welcome the highly respected and dearly sought Paula Lawson.
Thank you, Linda. Good evening. I'm Paula Lawson, your moderator for the Forum for Candidates running for Lake County Circuit Court Clerk in the November 5th, 2024 general election. The candidates are Erin Cartwright Weinstein, Democrat, and Carla Wyckoff, Republican. Now I'd like to review the rules before we start. Each candidate's opening statement is limited to 1.5 minutes. The order of opening statements was determined by lot prior to the beginning of the forum. Carla Wyckoff will speak first, followed by Erin Cartwright Weinstein. Candidates will each be given 1.5 minutes to respond to questions posed by the moderator. The order will begin with candidate Cartwright Weinstein for that, and the order of the person to start each question will be alternated. Each candidate is allowed 1.5 minutes for a closing statement, which will be presented in reverse order of opening statements. Candidates will restrict themselves to answering questions posed by the moderator. Personal attacks and exchanges between candidates will be ruled out of order. Questions were determined prior to the forum from those received during registration. The questions were screened for appropriateness for the office and to avoid duplication by committee following the league rules. The league is providing timekeepers who will show candidates the remaining time for each statement or question. The timer cards will show 1 minute, 30 seconds, and time's up. Now I'd like both the candidates, Carter Weinstein and Wyckoff.
Candidate Wyckoff, I need you to start your video so I can spotlight you. There we go. There we go.
Okay, and do we have the timer
Yes.
available too?
Yes.
Is it time to start?
Paula will start.
Okay. Yes, now candidate Wyckoff, you may begin.
Good evening. Good evening, Ms. Lawson, and also Ms. Cartwright Weinstein. First of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. I'll start by just talking about my desire to run for this particular office. I could be retired. I wanted to keep working. I am drawn to public service. I get a lot of satisfaction out of serving the people of Lake County. I believe my background, my work experience make me a good candidate for this position. I have an MBA from Northwestern, a law degree from Loyola. I served 16 years as an executive with the American Medical Association, part of that time as a lobbyist in Washington. I then was an assistant state's attorney for 23 years. I was in both the criminal and the civil divisions, so I have experience in both divisions of law. I also served as the Lake County clerk, and it was at a time that was really critical in the election process. There were significant legislative changes that dictated massive revision of how elections were conducted. One was election day voter registration. The other was universal early voting sites that required us to investigate, purchase, select and purchase massive new electronic systems, and then gear the software to be able to conduct the operation, the newly required operations. In addition, we then had to train about 1,700 election judges and staff to be able to operate this new equipment and the new systems.
All right, your time's up.
Oh dear.
Okay.
I didn't talk fast enough.
Your statement, candidate Cartwright Weinstein.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having this. I'm looking forward to this with Ms. Wyckoff. Hello. I am the current sitting circuit court clerk, and prior to that, I was an assistant state's attorney in Lake County for 4 years and then practiced for about 12 and a half years in private practice. I started this position and began going to work. I had promises and plans when I came into the office. We have accomplished those promises and plans and will continue to work on them in the future. We have increased the technology and the use of it. We have improved the working morale of the employees. When I came into office, it was a very difficult environment, and now it is a happy environment. Entering into the very first union contract, we have worked through all of the legislative and Supreme Court rule changes that have happened, such as the Safety Act and the Criminal Traffic Assessment Act. We have, and I have become the president of the Illinois Association of Court Clerks this year, and next year will be the president of the Illinois Association of County Officials, allowing me to really work in training. And it is my plan going forward to continue all of this hard work and not stop. We want access to justice for all and a comfortable place for people to be when they're trying to navigate the court system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now the first question goes to candidate Cartwright Weinstein first. What is a major issue the circuit court clerk's office is facing? How would you address it?
I think the most difficult thing for a circuit court clerk's office is addressing all of the legislative and Supreme Court rule changes. We're regulated by the Supreme Court as well as the legislature. So every statute that comes in and every Supreme Court rule change consistently modifies the way that we do work. It changes things for the judiciary, which we have to work with them to help navigate how the business flows will be. And it also impacts the public. And that is always very tough because it's already a very difficult place to be. You know, you're coming into this court system, you're nervous, it's complicated, it's convoluted, and now you've got to work through it. And that is, I think, the hardest thing for people. So when we're constantly making those changes, which also impact taxpayer dollars, because a lot of those changes cost money, such as the Safety Act, and we have to continue, you know, to be proactive and helping the public with the changes, helping through the Lake County Bar Association and doing trainings for the attorneys on the changes, as well as making the adjustments within our own community. Because when those things happen, they impact probation, the probation department, the judges, the way the courtrooms run, my staff, how we're putting together all of the cases and the documents. So that is probably the most challenging thing. And I would say for most clerks it is.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Candidate Wyckoff, what is a major issue the circuit court clerk's office is facing? How would you address it?
I initially agree with Ms. Cartwright Weinstein about the significant changes in statute and Supreme Court rules. And again, what I said in my opening statement, I went through that as the county clerk and was able to successfully adjust the entire election system and how we operated it. We did it on schedule and within budget. And I would hope to continue to do that in the circuit clerk's office. Two things that I would also address in the circuit clerk's office is the first one would be to instill in the office an apolitical climate. I think that's not been the case with this current clerk. When she was first elected, she fired 3 long-term employees on the day she was sworn in. Because they had supported her opponent. They in turn sued her for their violation of their First Amendment rights. A jury, when this went to trial, awarded them $2.6 million, not only in compensatory, but also punitive damages. And instead, I would make personnel decisions based completely on merit, and I would turn the focus of the office on conducting all the required procedures consistently, accurately, and to provide the best possible customer service to the users. And also to try to maintain the costs for the benefit of taxpayers. I would also.
Thank you. We're going to go on to the next question. And Candidate Wyckoff, it goes to you first. The circuit court clerk is viewed as an administrative position. Should this office remain an elected position?
I guess I hadn't really thought about that. I think in other states, there certainly these types of administrative positions are appointed and not elected. I guess I have faith in the Illinois citizens to continue to make decisions based on competence and record, and I don't think I would necessarily change it. I think no matter whether you elect a position or appoint it, you have some of the same concerns that you have to think about, and that is, you know, someone's ability, what you're basing the decision on, and if it is an appointed position, who would make the appointment. So I think there are a lot of issues that you have to think through first before you would change it from being an elected position.
Okay. Thank you, Candidate Cartwright Weinstein. Should this office remain an elected position?
I believe it should remain an elected position. It creates independence for the department head to be able to make decisions based upon the legislation and the Supreme Court rules that need to be made. It allows that person to work with various and different departments, to work with other circuit court clerks within the community, to be able to assist in helping each other work through all the problems. And if you're in an appointed position, you're actually working for someone, and alleviates that independence. And with that independence, it allows the voters to actually see who the person is and what they're doing and all of the hard work that they put in. And if they're doing a good job, then the voters keep them in, like the voters kept me in last time. Ms. Wyckoff was not able to keep her position as the county clerk. And I was able to keep my position because I work hard and I've been able to provide the promises that I have. And it gives me the independence and the ability to do that, being responsible to our voters and not responsible to someone who may not have the same appreciation and desire for the voters to understand and see what they do.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, the next question goes to Ms. Cartwright Weinstein first. What is your opinion of the circuit court's new web-based case management system? Are more improvements needed?
The web-based case management system is by a company called Journal Technologies, and we call them JTI, which is what I'll use for short. It is an absolutely wonderful system. It is so far advanced from where we were. We had been in a COBOL system for almost 40 years. And when I came in, that was the first thing that I went to work on, was to change that. It creates access for people outside of my office. Previously, they had to walk into the office to do all of their filings. They had no accessibility to documents online. They couldn't do any filings online. So the first thing we did was get to work on this. Does it have bumps in the road? It does. We did not just do this system for the circuit clerk's office and the courts. We did this for the state's attorney and the public defender's office as well. So this was the first time that this company had incorporated all 4 justice partners together in the 3rd largest county in the state. So yes, there have been bumps in the road. There are always bumps in the road with systems. I actually saw Ms. Wyckoff's have some bumps in the road when she implemented hers, because I was at the county board meetings when they were discussing it. It just simply happens. So you work through them. We have committees that we work with, and they're full of attorneys, judges, probation officers. Everyone comes together in different committees, and we talk about the problems and how we can solve them. And we work with the company to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Wyckoff, what is your opinion of the circuit court's new web-based case management system?
Thank you. I don't have the benefit of having worked in that system, because I most recently was working in the McHenry County State's Attorney's Office, and I was part of working with their system. So I don't know all the details that Ms. Weinstein, Cartwright Weinstein, does about this one. I have, however, in the process of preparing to run for this office, talked to a lot of attorneys and also pro se litigants about this case management system. And while the e-filing is a great innovation to provide access and immediate ability to file civil cases, there are some problems with it, and attorneys are expressed to me some frustration with parts of the system. So even though the e-filing is working fine, the case management poses some difficulties and frustrations on the part of attorneys. There's some feeling that the acceptance time, which still has to be done manually, can be very unreasonable, and there's concern about not meeting deadlines. The other concern is the inability to access documents and orders as the court case proceeds. So I think that there is a problem with this new case management system. There are certainly difficulties that need to be straightened out, and it needs to be made more efficient and timely, and it needs to be a priority.
Okay, the next question is, it goes to candidate Wyckoff first. Are you concerned that the use of artificial intelligence will compromise the security of records? What precautions are needed?
That is a very interesting question, because one of the things that I am, even with my limited knowledge of this new case management system in Lake County, just listening to all of the developments in technology. First, I would assume that at some point criminal cases will also be e-filed in Lake County. And one of the other things that occurred to me when I've been asked the question is that perhaps at the very least, this acceptance procedure could be done by AI. I would hesitate to do it unless there could be some very strong protections put in it so that it doesn't, there aren't problems with, unacceptable access to it. So while I think that it's a possibility, I agree that there have to be significant securities so that nothing is compromised.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Cartwright Weinstein, are you concerned that the use of AI will compromise the security of records? And what
We have to be
precautions are needed?
incredibly careful with artificial intelligence. And we have actually added 2 artificial intelligence bots. And when we did that, we worked very, very closely with Enterprise Technology, which is our county IT. We worked with the courts. We worked with our project manager to ensure that when the artificial intelligence was incorporated into the processing, that would allow for the that would allow for only administration and top people to be able to adjust or touch those artificial intelligence bots. They're trained very specifically to do very specific tasks, and that's all they know how to do. And they sit on what's called the virtual desktop. I want to just explain one thing that I think Ms. Wyckoff is confused about is e-filing and the case management system are 2 completely different systems. The e-filing system is run by our state and is actually a free system to all circuit clerks. The case management system we purchased, and we have a license to use that case management system. The artificial intelligence bots that we have pull documentation from the e-filing system, and they upload all of the information into the case management system. So that's what their very specific job and role is. And they have to be trained on every single specific document, which is what we're working on, which is what alleviates acceptance time for documents. And thank you.
Okay, thank you. This next question goes to candidate Cartwright Weinstein first. How does the no cash bail affect the office? Are there any problems to overcome?
The no cash bail runs under the Safety Act, and the Safety Act was a 764 page statute. So the no cash bail was just one small piece of that Safety Act. It does impact the county, and looking at it from my perspective, it impacts the county because the bail that came in, we had legislation on, and 10% of the bail that was collected was kept by the county to put towards county related issues, such as the sheriff's department's cost to go out and pick somebody up on a warrant or transport somebody. And we have lost that funding. Now, blessed are we in Lake County that our judges were ahead of the game and actually had pretrial officers already incorporated in Lake County working within the department. And so a lot of counties had to go out and obtain pretrial officers. We did not. And that was a huge cost savings for us in the long run because we had already taken care of that. But as far as, how many people are housed in the jail, or how, that doesn't impact this particular office, but that does overall impact, our community. And so for this particular office, it would have been the financial impact, but luckily a lot of things we had in place and we are not taking the same substantial financial hit that other counties have.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Wyckoff, how does the no cash bail affect the office? Are there problems to overcome?
Yes, and I assumed that without all of the detailed knowledge that that Ms. Cartwright Weinstein has, just in my experience doing criminal prosecution in Lake County. I am very aware of bail and bond costs and what ultimately happens to them. I would make one correction. I do understand the difference between the e-filing and the case management. And I do agree. I automatically assumed when I read versions of the Safety Act that it would have some sort of impact because of the significant changes in money going through the system. I'm pleased to hear that Lake County was ahead of a lot of the problems, and they are, it sounds like, under more control than in other counties. I just would sort of combine that with then just the need to be very careful about controlling costs and budget in the office. And I don't have the benefit of a detailed budget information that Ms. Weinstein there would, but I do know that the office has about 135 employees. They operate in 4 physical different locations in addition to the main office. Many of the fines, fees, and costs are dictated by statute, but the Lake County Circuit Court Clerk does have spending discretion in at least 3 of the funds.
Okay, thank you for your response. We just have time for one more question before the closing statements. Unfortunately, I have many more good questions, but we're close to the time we have allotted. So we'll go to candidate Wyckoff first. 30% of Lake County residents speak a language other than English at home. How can the Circuit Court Clerk's office accommodate their needs?
Well, I do know that when I was in the courtroom a lot, when I was in the state's attorney's office, we did have access to certain translators, but I can understand that since I was there and with my experience that the growth of different languages has grown exponentially. I do think that a lot of the access to that is already being, I believe, and can be done even more through access to technology. And, interpretation services. I think that there can certainly be an effort to incorporate people who have knowledge and skills in all of the different languages and cultures, but a lot of it may really depend on the ability to use technology to ease the communication and the work with all of these different people.
Okay, thank you. Same question to candidate Cartwright Weinstein. 30% of Lake County residents speak a language other than English at home. How can the Circuit Court Clerk's office accommodate their needs?
Now, we do not have access to the court's translators that Ms. Wyckoff was talking about that went into the courtrooms. And we have 5 separate physical courthouses in Lake County. We also have 138 employees, and not all of them speak all of the various languages that come into our office. Now, we have actually been able to include a new product that is called Pocket Talk Plus, which actually has 84 different languages associated with it. And that particular product is a very small pocket translator my staff has access to. They can walk around with them, and they can use those to communicate with people in real time, including on the telephone. So this has been just a remarkable change in our office. We don't have to run around trying to find someone who speaks bilingual or speaks different languages. We don't have to worry if someone comes in speaking Mandarin or Russian. We actually have that accessible to us right in our hands. We are expanding them to all 5 of the courthouses, and we are also looking at another product that has various kiosks that will show people documents, provide wayfinding. We're trying to get a grant to be able to do it because it's a very expensive product. but it does speak 35 different languages, and it assists people with whatever questions they have around the courthouse. And that when they have those questions, it can help them with documents, tell them where to find the documents, and it can also provide a circuit clerk to be available to via video to speak with them if they have additional questions that kiosk can't answer.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we'll go to our closing statements, and candidate Cartwright Weinstein goes first. You have a minute and a half.
Thank you. So the first thing that I wanted to do was address one thing that Ms. Wyckoff said earlier, and I wanted to be very clear that there was a pending lawsuit. It's something I can't speak about because there's still ongoing issues with it. However, Lake County has not paid out 1 cent in that litigation. So I wanted to be very clear to the voters that that has not happened. But what I do think is most important is that we continue on with all of the good changes that we've been making. One of our focuses of access to justice is so incredibly important to the community and the voters. We have to continue to provide people tools that people can use, whether they can come to the courthouse or not, that are available to them to make the court system accessible. It has not been accessible in the past, but we have made it accessible during my terms. We have improved technology that people can pull documents online. They can do hybrid courtroom experiences. We work with the judges. We have been working on training and improving that. And with my roles as the president of the Illinois Association of Court Clerks and coming president of the Illinois Association of County Officials, I'm working with my peers throughout the state to make these changes and to continue to improve our offices, and resource share between the different elected officials that are available. These things are important. We have to continue with ongoing technology. We have e-court with e-citation and other, and doing all of the fixes that Ms. Wyckoff mentioned earlier. Those are all in the works as well.
Okay, thank you. And candidate Wyckoff, you have the final closing statement.
Again, thank you for this opportunity for the two of us to participate in this. During my tenure as a Lake County Assistant State's Attorney and also the Lake County Clerk, I believe I was able to demonstrate both my integrity and my work ethic and my apolitical nature, all of which will help me to ensure an effective management of the office. I also had the ability to build an effective, strong team of staff and supervisors. First and foremost, I would lead by example, not expecting anyone on the staff to work any harder than I will myself. I will also listen to not only the staff, but also our customers, our users, and maybe can discern and possibly implement ways to help the employees better do their jobs and better communicate with the users and improve the current very negative Google reviews that exist relative to this office. I will always be present. I will be willing to work with them as I did when I served as Lake County Clerk. My energy level and my commitment stand in strong contrast to my opponent.
Okay. I'd like to thank the candidates for Lake County Circuit Court Clerk, Erin Cartwright Weinstein and Carla Wyckoff for participating in this forum, and to the Legal and Voters of Lake County and Mano a Mano Family Resource Center for sponsoring this forum. I would encourage you to access the websites for the Lake County Clerk and the Illinois Voter Guide for key dates and other election information as you make your plan on where and how to vote. We hope that you will all vote and encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to do the same. Voting is a fundamental responsibility of American citizenship. Voting by mail and early voting have begun. Election Day is November 5th. This forum has been recorded and will be available on the sponsoring leagues and Mano a Mano social media pages and on the Illinois Voter Guide. Thank you again to the league, to the candidates for participating, and to the audience for attending, and have a good evening.
Okay, so we're going to pause the recording. All of you in the audience, don't go away yet.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Paula Lawson, your moderator for the forum for candidates running for Lake County State's Attorney in the November 5th, 2024 general election. The candidates are Mary Cole, Republican, and Eric Rinehart, Democrat. The forum is being recorded and will be available for viewing in its entirety on the sponsoring leagues and the Mano a Mano Family Resource Center social media pages and on the Illinois Voter Guide. Copyright ownership of the tape resides with the League of Women Voters. The candidates, their organizations, their campaign, and their supporters will not use the forum, portions of the forum, or any audio clips, video clips, or transcripts for political advertising or other purposes. Now I'd like to review the forum rules. Each candidate's opening statement is limited to 1.5 minutes. The order of the opening statements was determined by lot prior to the beginning of the forum, and candidate Rinehart will go first. Candidates will each be given 1.5 minutes to respond to questions posed by the moderator. The order of answering the questions will be alternated. And candidate Cole will have the answer the first question first. Each candidate is allowed 1.5 minutes for a closing statement, which will be presented in reverse order of the opening statements. Candidates will restrict themselves to answering questions posed by the moderator. Personal attacks and exchanges between candidates will be ruled out of order. Questions were determined prior to the forum from those received during registration. The questions were screened for appropriateness for the office and to avoid duplications by a committee following league guidelines. The league is providing timekeepers who will show candidates the remaining time for each statement or question. The timer cards will show 1 minute, 30 seconds, and time's up. Okay, we're ready to start with our opening statements. And candidate Rinehart, you go first.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight and participating in this important discussion. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for facilitating this. My name is Eric Rinehart. I'm the current Lake County State's Attorney. I'm proud and humbled to do that job. Make no mistake about it, Lake County is safer today than it was 4 years ago because of the programs that we have put in, because of the investments we have made, and because of the amazing men and women at the Lake County State's Attorney's Office, who I am proud to work with every day. I live in Highland Park with my wife, Stephanie, who is a civil engineer. She's a transportation planner. She is my partner, amazing woman, and my 2 sons, Sam and Teddy, who are both 10. I think about their safety every day, and I bring that same urgency and innovation to the work of being state's attorney. Not only do we have to make sure that we secure justice in every courtroom for every victim and every survivor, but we also have to be thinking about prevention. Every crime we prevent is stopping a funeral, is stopping the trauma that is rippling through our communities. The United States is the most resourced country in the world. We must put those resources to help people and to invest in people. Crime is down in Lake County. Murders are at their lowest rate ever. We have brought in the people we need to keep going to make Lake County safer. I am proud to have expanded the positions, the headcount for domestic violence prosecutors and for victim specialists. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Cole, your opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for their more than a decade of supporting democracy. Ironically, this is a position, the Lake County State's Attorney's Office, there's never been a woman who's held that position. So ironically, I'd be the first, which I just think is an interesting theme for tonight. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Lake County, born and raised by fantastic parents. My dad's side came over on the Mayflower. My mom came here as an immigrant at age 30, speaking no English, and started her own business and still goes in every day to date, Mimi Cole Designers in Deerfield. I have been working in the criminal justice system for about 16 years in one way or another. I was a domestic violence victim advocate. at first in Southern Illinois at a state's attorney's office, Williamson County. Then I was a judicial paralegal for our lovely judges in Lake County while I studied to get into law school. Clerked at the gangs unit in Cook County State's Attorney's Office. I actually had a stint as a public defender out in DeKalb, which was a very meaningful experience. But most importantly, I was a Lake County prosecutor under both this administration and the prior. So that has given me a lot of insight. Let me just say this. My most important experience is probably that I was a victim in a case, which is where I kind of fell in love with the role of the prosecutor because I needed a prosecutor. So this job is very important to me, both professionally and personally.
Okay, thank you. The first question will go to candidate Cole first. What is the most important issue facing the state's attorney's office today? Why, and what would you do about it?
The most important, I would say the first thing that needs to change is the staffing to some degree. To date, more than 105 people have left the office in this last administration, which is about 60% turnover. There's only 153 positions. They may have added 2 more, so it might be 155. The problem with not having the right staffing and the right training is nothing can flow correctly from there. And so we also have this issue with undercharging cases because undercharging cases has a ability to skew statistics. And I think you're going to hear a lot about statistics today and the fact that my opponent and I do not agree on the statistics. Undercharging is when a prosecutor approves a charge that is less severe than the evidence supports. And the problem is that skews the statistics and makes crime appear like it is either less violent offenders or the crime is going down when the evidence from our law enforcement suggests otherwise. And so, for instance, from 2021, January 2021 to December of 2023, homicides in Lake County or shootings in Waukegan, I'm sorry, were 178. Prior administration was 119. And so you can see that there's an increase. Same with homicides in Lake County. The prior administration, homicides were for a similar time frame, 91. This administration, 121 pursuant to the coroner's report.
Thank you. And candidate Rinehart, what's the most important issue facing the state's attorney's office today?
Making sure that we keep protecting people, making sure that we keep telling the truth. Make no doubt about it. Ms. Cole, I think, said prior administration 4 or 5 times. She would take us back. There is no doubt about it. She said it 4 or 5 times in that answer, and she is wrong about her statistics. She has launched, in my opinion, the most dishonest and cynical campaign imaginable. And her statistics that she just gave and her example of undercharging, I don't know if I'll have the time. Maybe I'll return back to it in a second. Undercharging doesn't have anything to do with homicides. Homicides are the most serious case we deal with because somebody has died. The homicide statistics are from the coroner. Charging decisions are when a case is solved. I'm not going to give you murder statistics. That's when we've solved the case. That's a filing decision. When we talk about homicides being the lowest they've been in almost 10 years, while I'm state's attorney, that's coroner data. That's not a charging decision. She has zero data to support her claim about undercharging. And we are going to talk a lot about statistics. And I'm the first state's attorney to ever talk about statistics, Ms. Cole. I am the first state's attorney to ever have a data dashboard. I'm the first state's attorney to ever go down to Springfield, and I'm proud of this. Please Google House Bill 2323 while you're sitting there, ladies and gentlemen. And I was proud to finally get to this solution about how we can have all crime data being reported. But the reported crime data from law enforcement shows that robberies are down everywhere, for example.
Thank you. Okay, the second question goes to candidate Rinehart first. What plans or programs would you like to initiate or continue if you are elected?
Well, I also want to talk about her terrible point about attrition. We lost a lot of attorneys. We lost a lot of attorneys to salary problems at the beginning. She mentioned the prior administration. She basically said in her speech when she started her campaign as a Republican, Republican Mary Cole said, we're going to go back to Republican Mike Neerheim. And she said repeatedly that she can't wait to go back to those days. My predecessor ignored two compensation studies, two, not one, two compensation studies, and that's why we had the turnover. I have raised prosecutor salaries for the first time in 20 years. Prosecutor salaries have
Any
gone up.
programs you'd like to initiate or continue?
Yeah, more raises for prosecutors so that we continue to have the best. We need to expand our headcount with respect to our amazing investigators. Our investigators are outstanding. And I have proposed to this in this budget that we have a drug-induced homicide investigator to increase the partnerships with police agencies to make sure that we are filing drug-induced homicide cases when it's appropriate. And I've also proposed a new domestic violence prosecutor. I think that would take us up to 3 new domestic violence felony prosecutors. That's also been proposed to the board. And I've also made a proposal for a data analyst. No state's attorney has ever proposed a data analyst to the Lake County Board because we have to stop cynical arguments like Ms. Cole's, or we are going to continue to have these same debates forever and forever and forever.
Okay.
We're going to
Thank
keep
you.
talking about data, I hope, through this whole forum.
Okay. Ms. Cole, what
Yes.
plans or programs would you like to initiate or continue if you are elected?
Absolutely. Briefly, let me just say that the reason my campaign color is purple because I don't believe politics belong in the office. So just to clarify, I don't believe that the political argument has any place in the state's attorney's office. I think it does nothing but cause trouble. With regard to programming, Mr. Rinehart and I are in agreement that there does need to be change with regard to how drug-induced homicides are charged. There have been 550 overdoses since 2021 in Lake County, and there have been only 6 cases charged. Okay, that is very problematic, which is why we proposed launching a task force that involves the state's attorney's office, every police department, the coroner's office, and community members to help make sure that we can figure out how to keep our kids safe, right? How to make sure that people who are peddling fentanyl through pills that are maybe sold to something else, that they don't keep doing that, that once they've hurt somebody, that we manage to stop them. As far as programming goes, there's a lot more we can do. I think that if the resources of the Lake County State's Attorney's Office is utilized properly, for instance, my opponent did send 6 people to Hawaii recently. None of them were attorneys. 2 of them were campaign staff. I think that $20,000 or more worth of monies could go to something like the fentanyl or drug-induced homicide, or like training people to be better prosecutors in the domestic violence division.
Okay, this next question goes to candidate Cole first. What is your opinion of results from the Safety Act so far? What has been the impact on the state's attorney's office?
Thank you. Very good question. Let me first start off by saying that the Safety Act changed so much in Illinois with regard to the criminal justice system. And it was more than just cash bail or no cash bail. I will say that there are 2 things that I do think are positive about the Safety Act. The requirement with regard to body worn camera for officers and the mandatory trainings. I think we can all agree that that's good. However, the fact that we've basically whittled away a judicial discretion in terms of having a judge decide when someone is kept in custody or when they're not, I think that is problematic. I think we need to probably tweak it a little bit to give judges back their ability to help participate in determining whether someone should be detained or not. Also, the issue is if you don't have the state's attorneys doing their job, people aren't going to be detained because they need to ask the judge to detain the person. So if the state's attorney is not actually filing the petition to request detention, it never even gets in front of a judge. And so we need to make sure that our state's attorney is actually doing their job and requesting, and it's up to the judge to decide whether or not those people should be detained. But if we're not asking, and this administration is not asking, then we're really, jeopardizing the safety of the community, right? And so I think that the Safety Act is the framework that we're going to have for the future. So we just need to find a way to work within it to keep everybody safe and to make sure that justice is still sought and achieved.
Thank you. And candidate Rinehart, what's your opinion of the results from the Safety Act so far?
So as the Loyola University and Daily Herald and Chicago Tribune have all discussed, the Safety Act has made us safer. The Safety Act is a way despite all the misinformation, despite all the lies from the Republican Party, and some downstate Democrats, despite all the lies from everyone, the Safety Act has made us safer. It wasn't some letting everyone out at midnight on a certain date. They literally said that. The Republican extremists who talked about the Safety Act lied and lied and lied, just like Donald Trump. And the Illinois Republican Party is coordinating with Mary Cole on her campaign. She talked today about how great it sounds like she's for the Safety Act. Please go to her Facebook, September 28th, 2023. She talked about how awful the Safety Act was. That is exactly the cynicism that you're going to get from Mary Cole throughout this entire campaign. She said she was against the Safety Act. She just talked about it being good. Let me tell you why it's good. 70% of people charged with child pornography were posting cash. Now, and they were out, 70%. Now, risking our kids. Now, 100% of people charged with child pornography are held in our jail. Our prosecutors are filing petitions. They are being granted in murders, sex assaults, domestic violence. That is, those bad guys can't use their cash. And when it comes to child pornography, for example, there are many more. You can find these statistics on our website, the first data dashboard ever in the history of a state's attorney's office. You can find these statistics. Thank you.
All right. Let's go on to the next question. And candidate Rinehart, you go first. 30% of Lake County residents speak a language other than English at home. How can the state's attorney's office accommodate their needs?
I'm so glad you asked that question. And thank you for having this in dual languages. Our office has had unprecedented change in this way. You know, I've mentioned a few times that we've increased the number of victim specialists. Those are both for domestic violence and gun violence. I hope we can talk more about gun violence and the differences between me and Ms. Cole soon. When it comes to the number of victim specialists, we've tripled the number of Spanish speakers. When it comes to lawyers, we have doubled the number of Spanish speakers. The prior administration wasn't prioritizing this at all. There were zero leaders of color in the prior administration state's attorney's office. There were 25% women. We have 50% women in leadership, 30% leaders of color in this office, and we've expanded the number of Spanish-speaking prosecutors and victim specialists. Why is that so important? Because this work is done in small rooms. It's done in corners. It's done in hallways. It's done in this moment where two people are communicating, and we have to make sure that that communication is perfect. And that's why we have victim specialists down in our detention court. That's why we have victim specialists who are Spanish speaking. And I'm so proud of the amazing victim specialists in my office who speak Spanish and make sure that everybody has access. You know, when I became state's attorney, there was a lot of paperwork in the office about protecting the citizens of Lake County. I'm here to protect the residents of Lake County. Doesn't matter to me where they were born, what language they speak, or what they look like. We're here to protect the residents of Lake County. And
Right,
I'm
thank
very proud of
you.
my record on that. Thanks.
Okay, candidate Cole,
Yes.
same question.
Yes, my answer is probably going to be a little bit shorter. I think that Lake County has done a good job from the time that I've been here in trying to increase access to justice through making sure our forms are in more than one language, through making sure that victim advocates, are bilingual or at least speak Spanish. I think we could probably do a better job of improving upon more than just having Spanish-speaking victim advocates and people at the state's attorney's office. However, I do think it's a giant step in the right direction, considering we do have a heavily Hispanic population in Lake County. I think we just keep trucking forward. We keep investing in diversity. We keep investing in keeping a tab on how access to justice is actually reaching and serving people. I'm very proud of the fact Lake County takes pride in that. And I think we just continue in that direction. The problem with just touting how many people you've hired in an office is that if you've lost all those people, right, those numbers don't necessarily hold the same weight. And so again, I think making sure we have a competent office where the culture is positive and people want to stay there. And I know this because I was a prosecutor. My opponent had never prosecuted a case ever before becoming the chief prosecutor. So it's harder for him to understand the culture and the morale and what keeps people in office other than money, because you know what? People were paid very little as prosecutors before him, and they still stayed.
Thank you. Okay, candidate Cole, this next question goes to you first. What can the state's attorney's office do to stem the tide of gun violence?
Ooh, well, we could start with prosecuting. I think right now that the answer to that question, there's several layers. When you think of the state's attorney's office, it is the the enforcement arm of the law, right? So, and then we have police officers who are a part of that, right? Officers arrive on scene, they collect evidence, and then they supply the state's attorney's office with that evidence. We apply our legal minds and decide to make charging decisions. Right now in Lake County, we have a real shortage with regard to law enforcement. And the problem is when you have a shortage with law enforcement, you have a shortage of people who are out there actually stopping the violence and preventing crime. So we need to make sure that our relationship with law enforcement is improved. We need to make sure that we're charging cases appropriately and not just amending them down to misdemeanors. We have a case right now in Lake County where someone actually pulled a gun and tried to shoot somebody out at Port of Blarney. And instead of charging attempt murder, it was attempt to ag discharge of a firearm. Maybe Mr. Rinehart can tell you the actual charges, but it wasn't attempt murder. And the problem is that's a gun, that's attempted violence. But if we don't handle it the right way, we diminish the severity and importance of that, we allow that crime to flourish. So I think it really just comes down to doing our job the right way and making sure our law enforcement can do their job the right way. Thank you.
Okay, candidate Rinehart. What can the state's attorney's office do to stem the tide of gun violence?
So we are prosecuting many gun offenders. We have the first violent crime unit ever, and that's an expanded head count. That's 2 of the most experienced prosecutors in the office who moved over to our violent crimes unit. We are charging all of the gun crimes. Under the Safety Act, we are holding 91% of those who possess weapon by a felon under the old system that my opponent touts. She criticized the Safety Act under the old system that she would return to with the judges making the decisions on cash. We were letting out 21% of individuals possessing a weapon by a felon. You know, I got to tell you, we are working on gun violence. We have put $5 million into our gun violence prevention initiative. We have built a violent crime unit. We have expanded the number of prosecutors. And Ms. Cole, I am not talking about attrition. I'm talking about expanded headcount. And if we need to spend more time talking about that, we can. When I say we've hired more, we are talking about expanded headcount, not turnover. And the 2 prosecutors in the division, I'm not going to put names in, you know exactly who they are. They haven't gone anywhere, and they're in our violent crime unit. I'm wearing an orange ribbon today because I'm for the assault weapon ban, and I've been for the assault weapon ban for 5 years. I'm for Karina's bill. My opponent has never talked about the assault weapon ban. She has never talked about Karina's bill. Her answer was practically written by the Illinois Republican Party, which is bankrolling Trump in this election.
Okay.
She didn't provide one solution. She didn't provide one solution about gun violence in that answer.
All right. Now we'll move on. Candidate Rinehart's first to a different topic. How should mental health commitment hearings be held?
Well, mental health commitment hearings are held by our civil division. We talk a lot about the prosecutor's role. Ms. Cole, we haven't had a chance to talk a little bit about the civil role yet in our forums. But not only do we have the criminal prosecutions, but we also have the civil. We also have the civil division, which heads that. We have some amazing veteran prosecutors doing the civil commitment proceedings. There's really 2 tracks. It's a little complicated. I don't know if I have all the time, but there's 2 tracks in terms of our law enforcement partners who are doing an amazing job where they can take an individual to a hospital emergency room or unit for admission. And then a doctor can sign an affidavit and ask that be heard in court. There happens to be another long process. I have an amazing prosecutor in my office who does trainings on these. And we've done these trainings for law enforcement. Those have never been done before. So we are training law enforcement more than ever on both tracks. Like I said, one is the commitment where an officer takes the person to a hospital, and the other is where the prosecutor's office, it's called the WRIT process, WRIT, where the civil division files a writ, and then actually officers go and make an arrest. And then that person is then brought to the same hospital. Now, now that I've been state's attorney, we've expanded our resources in treating those with mentally ill. We've actually, for the first time ever, expanded the number of attorneys. I'm not talking about attrition. We've expanded the number of attorneys who are in our mental health court. And we are also working very hard on our Living Room Wellness Center under the leadership of the amazing John Eidelberg.
Okay,
Sorry that
thank you.
was long. Sorry that was long.
All right, Ms. Cole, how should mental health commitment hearings be held?
I think that actually Mr. Rinehart did a great job of explaining the overall processes. It is very statute driven. It's kind of nitpicky and procedural. So I think he did a good job of kind of giving an overview of how that works. And yes, the state's attorney's office has a great division that deals with that. But I think what it does open up the door to talking about is mental health generally in the criminal justice system. We do have mental health courts, which is fantastic, but I think everybody kind of knows this is true. There's a flood of people in the criminal justice system who are probably there more for mental health reasons at some point than they are for true criminality. And I do think we need to partner with people in the community, with our officers more, and everybody's trying, right? But we do need to come up with a better way to address people who end up in the criminal justice system because maybe, for instance, they're finding out they're schizophrenic for the first time and they do something and it's because they're hallucinating, right? So I think there's a difference between that person who does something and a person who, is consciously causing trouble. And I think that those distinctions need to be addressed in our criminal justice system. And I think most people would agree with that, which is why we have mental health court and things like that. But as far as the civil commitments process goes, I think Mr. Rinehart and I are in agreement that it functions the way it should.
Okay, thank you. This next question goes to Ms. Cole first, and I think it's something you've both already touched on a little bit. Is the office adequately staffed? Does the budget need to be increased to recruit and retain high-quality assistants?
I will always support our prosecutors getting more money. I think that prosecutors do a very important job. I think that they carry the weight of the community in a lot of ways, and their duty and their responsibility should be rewarded. We should be wanting to obtain good attorneys and using every avenue we have to get them in Lake County. I believe that right now prosecutors in Lake County are getting paid more than they ever have. I think that Mr. Rinehart actually helped them get a raise through the county board, which is good. The problem is money has never been the only reason the prosecutors stay. If it was, we wouldn't have the issues we have right now. So culture needs a change in the office is really what needs to happen, right? Prosecutors need to feel like they have a purpose and that they're allowed to do what they signed up to do, right? That they're getting trained properly. They don't feel embarrassed in court because they don't know what they're doing. Their caseloads get huge because they don't know how to resolve cases. So that does need to change. As far as budgeting goes, I think being more responsible with our money, I think that's important. I mean, sending people to Hawaii is not an acceptable way to spend government money, period. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? The only training the farthest I ever went as far as a training, I think was Naperville. And it's just a complete misuse of funds. And so getting grant money has been much easier these past few years. For all government agencies in Illinois will tell you that. We just got to do it appropriately.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Rinehart, is the office adequately staffed, and does the budget need to be increased to recruit and retain high-quality assistants?
Yes. I've proposed a budget every year that asks for an increase, unlike my predecessor, who Ms. Cole would take us back to. My predecessor, instead of investing in people, instead of investing in technology, we actually got a grant where we can now get into almost 90% of the bad guys' phones. When I came in, it was in the 60s, and my predecessor returned money to the county board every year. He actually bragged about it. In our debates in 2020 about how he was giving money back to the Lake County board. Frankly, I think that cost us a lot of safety. We are investing in technology. We are investing in people. I am the one who has secured the first raise in 20 years. Forget my party. I am the one who got it done. I am the one who used my skills to get it done. And the reason we had turnover was all in the misdemeanor traffic division. That's where Ms. Cole worked. In the misdemeanor traffic division, people left consistently because they were underpaid, and she's double counting. And her frequent reference to Hawaii, I might just use my whole closing on Hawaii, shows how she has launched the most cynical, Trump-like, misleading campaign. She dropped a flyer. She dropped a flyer that called me a defunder. I am investing in technology. We are expanding headcount. How can I be a defunder when we have secured the first raises for prosecutors ever? Hawaii was a DOJ approved training. We got on the phone with DOJ and they said, yes, it's a 20-year training. I will return to
Time's up.
Hawaii.
Thank you.
Well, I wasn't in Hawaii, but
Okay, next question goes to candidate Rinehart on a different topic. Do you have a strategy to address the opioid crisis?
Absolutely. I'm really proud of the work that we have done. I am proud to be working with Chelsea Laliberte, who has worked across the aisle on this work. When I became state's attorney, I began working with the very renowned Lake County Opioid Initiative on all facets, whether we're talking about a way out, which I've been working to expand with the Lake County Sheriff in the Wellness Center, whether we're talking about Narcan and working with NERCO and our amazing 501c3 partners to make sure that we're getting more Narcan into the communities. And we're actually beginning to see the first decrease ever in the year 2024. I'm very proud that our office also was there when the settlements came in from the opioid lawsuit. State's Attorney Nierheim filed that lawsuit with the Attorney General, and we have been there to work with the coroner, the sheriff, the county board to get those funds out. We've put an education program in. I have two 10-year-old boys. I hope they're getting education programming tomorrow about the dangers of fentanyl. And I will use my last 30 seconds on something concrete we've done. There's been Facebook posts about this from advocates. I had a mother come in and address law enforcement officers about the fentanyl crisis, and she provided that testimonial. I think that thing that we need to, all of us need to hear about somebody who had lost somebody to the fentanyl crisis. And so for the first time ever, we have been having trainings with law enforcement about how to make these drug-induced homicide cases. And they bring us the cases. And Ms. Cole criticizes me for the drug-induced homicides, but it's law enforcement that brings us the cases. Yep.
Okay, candidate Cole, same question. Do you have a strategy to address the opioid crisis?
Absolutely. This is actually something I've made pretty public. I've lost, like many people, maybe Mr. Rinehart, I'm not sure. I've lost people I love dearly to the opioid crisis. And I don't think you'll meet one person really who doesn't have someone they know or someone close to them who's been affected by it. As I mentioned earlier, from 2021 to present, there have been over 550 overdoses in Lake County. So what we want to do is we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We've talked to other administrations or other counties that have done this very well. So what happens is you develop a task force, you develop a protocol with law enforcement, because as he mentioned, police are the ones to collect the evidence. So when someone overdoses, what we want to do is have the coroner instantly be able to identify that that's what happens, right? Have police on scene. Police will then go through the person who's passed away or overdosed, their phone, to figure out who maybe, for instance, they bought the pills from. From there, an investigation is launched, and you have a specific prosecutor that has basically dog-eared that case and is on it from beginning to end, working with the police to make sure that they're collecting everything, that they're going through, their Snapchats, just that whatever you need to figure out where they got those pills from. Because chances are that one pill was a batch and someone else is going to get that lethal dose of fentanyl too. So if we can catch people who are selling and peddling poison, we can save so many lives. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, the next question to candidate Cole first. Should the state's attorney's office partner with nonprofit organizations? And if so, why and who would you partner with?
Oh my goodness, yes. I think that the state's attorney's office, we're the nucleus to some degree of community safety, right? But making sure that we have a reach that actually touches the public, right? Gets from more than just the government building, right, all the way down to the community level. The fact that we have so many great nonprofit organizations in Lake County is a huge benefit to us, huge benefit. And I think that if we can find a way to use our resources, our knowledge, our relationships, we can actually reach people quicker. And I think one of the areas we need to do this with is with juveniles and with parents and families that are experiencing trouble who end up in the juvenile justice system. There are a lot of parents who notice signs, for instance, that their child might be heading in the wrong direction, but say they're a single mother or don't have the support. They need a place to go before their child ends up in the juvenile justice system to say, hey, can we help? And I think the township supervisors, a lot of the other non-for-profit organizations we have in each city can come together along with DCFS and someone from the state's attorney's office to help put together a program, right? So that we can intercept a problem before it becomes a criminal problem. There's a lot of other ways that we can use our resources. That's just one. But yes, I very much believe we should partner with not-for-profits.
Okay, candidate Rinehart, same question for you. Should the state's attorney's office partner with nonprofit organizations? Why and who?
Yeah, we do to a great extent already, and we've expanded that since I've been state's attorney. Obviously, our work with LCOI, the Lake County Opioid Initiative, has been very important. We are working with our Living Room Wellness Center to make sure that we are helping people who are suffering from mental illness, who are in crisis. We obviously work with NACASA and NERCO, and those are great organizations where we want to send young people to make sure that they are getting the help they need. But I have to say, I'm surprised by Ms. Cole's answer today. She recently put out a misleading and fear-mongering flyer. I hope none of you got it, but I'm afraid some of you did. A fear-mongering flyer where she criticized me for using youth mentors. They're community violence workers. Please Google this, about learning how community violence interrupters and interventionists are actually saving lives throughout the country. We are one of only 5 prosecutors' offices in the country that have brought in these youth mentors to work with kids, Ms. Cole. They're just working with kids. They're just trying to get them out of gang life and street life. And yet you criticized me. You criticized me for this program where we've brought in millions of dollars. They've gone to the White House. We have been trained by the best in the country. Mr. McAllister was recently at the White House. Tiara Lemon, my amazing GVPI director, has been at the White House repeatedly. By the way, she also went to Hawaii to get trained. And you criticize this program, and you're not really engaged with it. You've never been to a town hall.
Okay, thank
about
you.
what this program
Your
does.
time's up on this question, and please just answer the questions and not address the other candidate. This will be the last question before closing statements. It goes to candidate Rinehart first. What role, other than prosecuting cases, does the state's attorneys have in making our communities safer?
Well, that's kind of leads into my last answer. We are the strategic planners for safety. We are the strategic planners for safety. We are securing justice in the courtroom. I've been criticized a great deal by Ms. Cole in this campaign, and yet we are winning our trials. We are winning our trials with the amazing prosecutors we have, and we are securing justice with our victim specialists. And if you actually look at the news results, you'll see that individuals are going to prison for appropriate amount of time. That's one part of the job. The other part of the job is to think about prevention. And I have talked about, and my team has talked about prevention more than any prior state's attorney's office ever. Forget party. My predecessors did no strategic planning in this regard. Some of her statistics were wrong at the beginning. Gun violence peaked under my predecessor, and I have driven it down because of our prevention programs and because of the Gun Violence Prevention Initiative, which is $5 million that trains good people. They're just public servants. They're just trying to help kids. and they're trying to engage in strategic planning to take guns away from domestic batterers. That's why I'm for Karina's bill. We are expanding trainings with FRO, that's firearm restraining orders. We are expanding training on clear and present danger, which could have been used in the Cremo case. We are doing the right preventative things, and murders are at their lowest ever. Shootings, not filings. Shootings
Okay.
are at their lowest
Thank you,
ever in
candidate
2023,
Rinehart.
2024. Thank you.
Okay, candidate Cole, what role other than prosecuting cases does the state's attorney have in making our communities safer?
Absolutely. So the state's attorney's office is supposed to be more than just a responsive or play more than a response role, meaning it's not just about responding to crime and arresting people. Don't get me wrong, holding people accountable and dealing with people who have committed crimes and responding is a huge part of what needs to be done, and it can't be supplemented by any other method per se. But with that being said, there's a lot of preventative and community oriented work that is done by the state's attorney's office. For instance, a safe place, right? A safe place is a fantastic organization we have in Lake County that helps victims of domestic violence. And so one of the things that we do is partner with them to help make sure not only that people who are in violent and abusive relationships can hopefully get out, but also spreading awareness. So that way, you know, people who are in dangerous situations can recognize before something happens that they need to get out. And that's just one example. There's a lot of involvement with the kids in the community, partnering with law enforcement, right? And sometimes having just a healthy presence of law enforcement is enough to help prevent crime. But the bottom line is the state's attorney's office is probably the most powerful office in Lake County, and its reach is farther than anyone is going to get into in this specific conversation. But there is a lot to be done other than just arrest people and put them in jail.
Okay, thank you. Now we're ready for our closing statements. And candidate Cole, you have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Maybe this is the appropriate time to address the over politicization of this conversation. There's been a lot of allegations about me lying, this, that, the other. I don't think you'll see any proof of that. I've been tied to parties, this, that, the other by my opponent. You're going to find anybody who knows me. I'm just not a political creature. One of the reasons I left the office was because of how politicized it got. And so one of the very first things that will happen on day one is the removal of politics from that office. But also, I think it's important to point out there's a very distinct fundamental difference between myself and my opponent, and that is I have the heart of a prosecutor. I think it is like valiant and honorable to be a voice for somebody in a bad situation when they have no other voice, because I've needed that before. And I think it's a duty we have no right to disregard. And so I think that compared to somebody who's literally never prosecuted a case before he got to the office, and the only case he did prosecute, which they won at trial, came back reversed. And then the only other trial he almost ran was the Highland Park shooter's dad's case. And on the day of trial, instead of running it and defending the people of Lake County, he amended the charges to misdemeanors in front of everybody. So at the end of the day, I'm here to fight for the people of Lake County. Even if it looks bad, whatever it takes to protect this community is what I will do.
Okay, thank you, candidate Cole. Candidate Rinehart, your closing statement.
I want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank everyone's engagement in this forum. I think you've heard the real differences between me and my opponent. She doesn't have any plans or ideas except to take politics out of the office. I'm here to fight for the people of Lake County. I'm for the assault weapon ban. My opponent hasn't talked about that in 14 months. I am for a woman's right to choose, pro-choice, no exceptions. That's why I've been endorsed by the leading pro-choice organization in Illinois called Personal PAC. I hope you'll look them up. My opponent refuses to talk about the importance of protecting a woman's right to choose on this campaign trail. You want to talk about being political? You talking about abortion for the first time in August of 2024? That is the definition of political. And I'm voting for Kamala Harris because Donald Trump is a danger to this country. And the people of Lake County should know where I stand on that. And it's okay if you disagree with me on it, but I'm going to tell you how I feel. And that's not political. Those are my values. I will fight for the people of Lake County. I will do it with the eye towards making people safer. I believed in the Safety Act. It wasn't popular. She didn't. And she was wrong because it has made us safer. She criticized the Safety Act along with every other Illinois extreme Republican. And just like every other Illinois extreme Republican, she has told people it's okay to vote for Donald
Okay.
Trump. Ms. Cole,
Thank
it is
you.
not okay to vote for Donald Trump.
Okay, thank you. I just want to thank the candidates for Lake County State's Attorney, Mary Cole and Eric Rinehart, for participating in this forum, and to the League of Women Voters in Lake County and Mano a Mano Family Resource Center for sponsoring this forum. I would encourage you to access the websites for the Lake County Clerk and the Illinois Voter Guide for key dates and other election information as you make your plan on where and how to vote. We hope that you will all vote and encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to do the same. Voting is a fundamental responsibility of American citizenship. Voting by mail and early voting have begun. Election day is November 5th. This forum has been recorded and will be available on the sponsoring leagues and Mano a Mano social media pages and on the Illinois Voter Guide. Thank you again to the league, the candidates for participating, and to the audience for attending. And I hope you will enjoy the remainder of your evening. Good night.
Thank you.